Thank you, and hi. So let's just get started then. I wanted to talk a little bit about rock solid curl today. It's not going to be a very long presentation, but anyway, this is me. I'm Daniel. I do curl. This is actually a photo of my workplace. I work for Wolf SSL, of course, as said already. So hit the little Q&A thing up there in Zoom if you have questions, and we get to them after. So today I wanted to just walk through what rock solid curl is, a little bit about the challenge for some users, how we plan to do the long-term support, who actually doing rock solid, and some of the differences. Commercials, it is commercial. We have release branches about the license and support, and these different things I want to go through. And it's basically, let me do this in, well, 15 minutes or so. So we have come to understand that while curl remains determined and really dedicated to never break API or ABI, which should make it possible and it is possible for all users to just continuously upgrade to the latest curl without anything breaking, because ABI and API continues to, we don't break it. It's always forward compatible. And that also goes for the command line tool. So that should be a safe and solid upgrade path for users. But still, we ship new releases fairly frequently in curl, roughly than every 8 weeks, and often with new functionality in these releases. And every now and then, of course, we ship regressions. We work really hard to not do that, but given enough development speed and things, they still happen. And of course, we fix them, we add new tests, and we iterate, and we hope that we don't do it again, but they still happen every once in a while. And every once in a while, we of course also have we get reports about security problems, vulnerabilities. We fix them and include them in upcoming releases too, of course. Anyway, so it actually then sometimes provides a little bit of a challenge to users if you actually want a regression-free update or upgrade, because you want the latest one that has all, or at least you want a version with all the vulnerabilities fixed, but you don't want regressions. And sometimes that could actually put you in a sort of a complicated spot. We work hard to not have this, but it still happens repeatedly. So the idea here is to provide rock solid curl as a maintained stable curl release branch for at least 5 years. That's sort of, we say at least 5 because that's the current plan. We might be convinced to prolong those 5 years. And we who are doing this then, so rock solid curl is an effort by Wolf SSL, and that is basically me then and other established curl maintainers who are going to do the maintenance of this rock solid curl. So it's not going to be any strange people. And I mean, it's us who are already making the regular curl. So we know curl. I think we are well suited to do rock solid curl as well. And the differences then in ordinary curl releases compared to these new rock solid releases is basically then that we will keep doing curl exactly as we have done for a long time. We have this release cycle concept in curl that we established, I think, well, maybe a dozen years ago. So, and we've been keeping and sticking to that. So we do curl releases every 8 weeks, unless we have some weird regressions, then we do additional patch releases as when needed. And we do new features then in .0 releases. And we do .0 releases fairly frequently, actually. Almost every 8-week release is a new feature release. So anyway, so that's a established release procedure that is just going to continue on, because that's the open source version, established, working. We don't want to break a winning concept, but the rock solid version then of releases is that we're only going to do rock solid curl releases when there is a security fix or a serious function, sort of functional fix that fixes some kind of breakage in rock solid itself, which should be rare. And this means that there should be no new features in rock solid curl releases after we have sort of started a new release branch, and there will be then by extension then there should be no regressions in rock solid curl releases going during the supported period, really. And rock solid curl is a commercial offer, so we only offer these packages to support customers, really. So that's the only way to get access to it. So if you go to the rock solid curl site now, you can actually not get access to the downloads unless you are a customer with a user and password for it. So we only support this we only do this for support customers, basically because this is maintenance and backporting, and it's going to be real work, and we're going to have to put in a serious effort to do this, and we cannot do this for free. And we estimate and we think that this is a offer that is primarily focused and targeted to actual commercial users who really value the opportunity to get more stable releases and a more safe and reliable way forward for a fairly long time. And we do offer different support levels, so we only sort of require support contracts, so you can select different levels. Okay, and of course, by having paying customers to do this, that also helps sustain the curl project, because we need to sustain the project to be able to keep doing releases. And we intend or plan to do new rock solid release branches then, and we start new ones roughly every 18 months, so 1.5 years. So we created the 8.9.2 version just now, and we then plan to do another one in 1.5 years. And when we pick a new release branch, we're going to pick one from a recent curl release, not the latest, but a recent one, so that we know a little bit about regressions and make it so that we can make it a fairly stable and solid release then. And by then doing new ones every 18 months roughly, and we end of life them after about 5 years. So going forward in the future, there should be roughly 3 release branches in parallel. And then we can, of course, discuss perhaps extending the support period, at least for specific branches. The curl license is still going to be applied, so you can still get curl, rock solid curl, under the exact same open source license as curl is. So there's no implied license difference here. It's the same thing, unless you want it to be a commercially licensed version, then we can provide a commercially licensed version as well, or instead, if you want to. And as I mentioned already several times, we might be able then to be convinced to extend the support time longer than 5 years, because 5 years might not be long enough for some use cases. And I want to emphasize that this rock solid effort is dedicated, a separate effort to package and provide support for curl releases, right? Long-term release branches. It doesn't at all really affect the upstream, quote unquote, real curl project. So the curl project is going to keep on being done, developed, released, and managed exactly as it has been for a very long time already. So rock solid is just going to be a new way to package and release and support curl releases. It's not going to change, well, not in any material way anyway. It changed the upstream curl project. So by this, we basically just hope to package and provide an opportunity to customers and users to get a more stable, solid, safe version of curl that should be attractive to some users. And that is pretty much it. And everything about rock solid curl that is rock solid curl specific is then available on the rock solid website. As you can see, the URL here on the site, rock-solid.curl.dev. And there's also words about support, pricing, getting in touch with us and everything. So whatever you want to know about rock solid curl, you can find it on the website. Everything about rock solid curl is of course also still using, I mean, it's still the same API and everything. So all the documentation for curl is still the same. So you go to curl.sc to find all the documentation and learn and figure out all the actual details about curl there. Well, there's a question here about curl being a CNA and if rock solid curl is then per default also a CNA or under the same umbrella. So yes, since this is not really a different curl, it's just a different packaging and a different support option, it's still the same curl. So curl and rock solid curl, they're going to be having the same a security problem that affects curl and that affects rock solid curl. They're going to affect them both pretty much. So because they're the same. They're going to deviate a little bit because we're going to backport fixes into the rock solid. So there's a minuscule risk that there at some point will be a security problem with just one of them, but it doesn't matter because we as a CNA, that is a CVE numbering authority, so that we manage our own CVEs. We can manage CVEs for rock solid curl and curl with no problems. There's an additional part to this question is if we cooperate, discuss, or partner with the other CNAs in any area. So yeah, we do. I mean, this is really not about rock solid specifically, but so we are our CNA within the CVE system, and we are also part of the OS of the open source CNAs. So actually, I participate in discussions around how to manage CVEs as with the other open source related CNAs, and mostly there. And otherwise, we are primarily CNAs in curl to control and manage our own CVs better and without sort of a lot to be able to stop bogus CVs and crap to get into the system and be better masters of our own domain, sort of. And I think we manage that. Otherwise, we're not a big CNA. I hope that we will not get many more CVEs going forward, and we've been at a rate of around 10 to 12 per year recently. Hopefully, we will just stick to that rate. So it should be fairly low and fairly not a lot of work. So anyway, feel free to ask more questions in the CNA box here. I have a few questions from.
Thank you, Daniel. I got a few questions for you. I was just wondering.
Please go ahead.
How do I get access to the rock solid release downloads?
Right. Yeah. So then I mentioned that briefly. So you basically you become a support customers with WolfSSL. You contact us and we get that going. And once you have a support contract with us, you get a login with the user and password, and then you can just go to the rock solid website and download it. And they are provided just as any normal curl download. It's just a separate release pretty much.
Awesome. I got another one for you. Will the rock solid branch selections be picked in sync or aligned with some Linux distributions selected releases?
So we have discussed, since this kind of long-term release management that we do now with Rock-Solid, it is similar to the way Linux distributions are doing, since they also pick release branches and they stick to them in their particular Linux distro releases pretty much. So it could potentially be useful to try to align with Linux distros, but we have decided to not do that because all Linux distros pick their own different curl versions to base their release branches on, and I think it will just cause more problems and be hard to sync with rather. So we're going with our own versions, and I think, I mean, I have a pretty good idea laid out exactly how we are going to pick the versions, and I think that since we are the ones who actually know curl the best, I think we will have a very good idea of what versions to go with and how to manage that. So I feel pretty safe and secure in just saying that we will just go with a sensible choice that we think our users benefit from, so we can be free from what all the others think and do, and because they are controlled and they make decisions based on their conditions, and they are not necessarily the same as ours.
Can a user spot a difference between rock-solid curl and normal curl when installed?
By from the beginning, as we ship them now, they will not be, you cannot really spot a difference in any way other than the release version, because we are going to make sure that the version number we release rock-solid curl versions as, they will not be the same versions as we release normal curl as. So for example, the first rock-solid curl is called 8.9.2, and there is no other curl version 8.9.2, and there never will be. So you can only spot the difference based on the version number. Otherwise, they are identical. Well, identically looking, at least, since they're a little different depending on what kind of patches and the branches.
And last question from me: how frequent will there be rock-solid curl releases?
Yeah, so that will then entirely depend on exactly how many security problems we we get reported and that we fix. So pretty much every time we merge or we announce a security fix and we do a release of that in normal curl, so when there's a security problem to fix, we will fix that in rock-solid curl too, and then do a new release there for rock-solid curl. So potentially there could be rock-solid curl releases roughly as often as we do normal curl releases, but there should never be more than that, and ideally far fewer, because ideally we don't have that many security problems to fix. But so in effect, I think that means that we will do a number of rock-solid curl releases per year, but I don't know exactly how many that will be. Maybe 5, maybe 7, 8. I don't know.
Well, thank you, Daniel, for hosting an informative webinar today. Thanks, everyone, for joining. I will email a copy of the webinar recording and PDF slides. You can keep up with our upcoming events, meet our team in person, read our blog posts, and get the latest Wolf SSL updates by following us on X, connecting with us on LinkedIn, and subscribing to our YouTube